October 23rd, 2077. On this day, in a town called Sanctuary Hills, a family is living an ordinary life, reading the morning paper, getting coffee, and watching TV. Unbeknownst to the entire population of the United States, the world is about to change.
Oh, sounds like someone made a sticky. I shall attend to young Shaw.
You know, I was nervous at first, but Codsworth's really good with Sean.
Outside the window sits a van for a company, Vault-Tec.
Looking in on next week's forecast, we have a high of 52 on Monday. But also appear our troops stationed overseas are experiencing some unusual weather as well. On the island of Mamba Jao, the nights are cold, unseasonably so for Southeast Asia.
In mere seconds, the doorbell will ring, bringing an unsightly visitor to the home of Nate and Nora.
It's probably that salesman. He comes for you every day.
And now look at sports. Something is unquestionably.
Good morning. Vault-Tec calling.
Vault-Tec? Remind me again?
Why, we're about you, sir, and helping secure your future. You see, Vault-Tec is the foremost builder of state-of-the-art underground fallout shelters. Vaults, if you will. Luxury accommodations where you can wait out the horrors of nuclear devastation. You can't begin to know how happy I am to finally speak with you. I've been trying for days. It's a matter of utmost urgency, I assure you.
Then I'm glad you caught up with me.
Oh, me too. You have no idea. Now, I know you're a busy fellow, so I won't take up much of your time. Time being a precious commodity. I'm here today to tell you that because of your family service to our country, you have been pre-selected for entrance into the local vault. Vault 111.
Sounds great.
Oh, it is. Believe you me. Now, you're already cleared for entrance in the unforeseen event of total atomic annihilation. I just need to verify some information. That's all.
Now, I can't wait for the world to end.
While playing with their young son, Sean, a warning rings out.
What's wrong?
The news about to be revealed would change the world.
Yes, followed by flashes, blinding flashes, sounds of explosions. We're trying to get confirmation.
What?
We seem to have lost
did
contact
he
with our
say?
affiliate stations.
Oh, no.
We do have coming in. That's
Codsworth.
confirmed reports. I repeat, confirmed reports of nuclear detonations in New York and Pennsylvania. My God.
Oh my god.
We need to get to the vault. Now!
The sirens begin. Panic ensues. Vertibirds fly overhead. People of Sanctuary Hills are in panic, and many of them will not be cleared for entrance to this vault. Their one shot at safety, well, shot.
You don't get in.
I'm going in. You can't stop me. Okay. I'm reporting this!
Not in the vault. If you're in the program, stop.
We need to get in. We're on the list.
Infant, adult male, adult female. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Get to the
Good
vault.
luck,
You
man.
two, follow me.
God
Come
help
on.
us all.
What's gonna happen to all those people outside the
We're doing
gate?
everything we can. Now keep moving. Step on the platform in the center.
They're all there.
Almost there.
The last
It'll be
group
okay.
of Sanctuary survivors.
Both of you.
We love you too.
Hold on!
Not long after that, they made it.
We did it. We made it. We're okay.
Everyone please step off the elevator and proceed up the stairs in an orderly fashion.
No need to worry, folks. We'll get everyone situated in your new home. Vault 111. A better future underground.
So we just...
Yes, up the stairs.
I can't believe it. If we left a minute later...
No,
We'd all be.
don't get caught up thinking about that. You're safe now. Everyone, just head up these stairs and through the door there.
Vault-Tec is here for you. All new residents, please proceed in an orderly fashion. Welcome home.
Mysterious tubes snake around the entrance to Vault 111, and condensation leaks from the ceiling above. Something is not as it seems.
Over to the table and take a seat. Just this way.
Welcome. Pick
You'll
up a
need
suit
your
right
seats
over there.
before we can take you further.
Just step
Thanks.
over to the table.
What now?
Just follow the doctor here. He'll show you where to go.
All right, you three. Follow me.
Here you are. Head down the hall there. See? This is our new home.
Oh, you're gonna love it here. This is one of our most advanced facilities. Not that the others aren't great, mind you. It's gone. Our home. Everything we had.
Sir?
My mother and father down in D.C. Oh, God, honey. What if
How
they did
long do you
long?
think we'll be down
I
here?
know this is a difficult
Oh, we'll be going over all that in orientation. Just a few medical items we have to get through first.
The bald suit is
Just checking everyone off the list as they come in.
Mysterious machinery adorns the ceiling, and a strange cold air blows from the decontamination
Just
pods,
step in here and put your vault suit on.
if that is even what they are.
It'll be okay.
Excuse me.
Daddy's
Just
right
step
here.
into the chamber.
See?
Step into the chamber
Honey.
whenever you're ready.
Could you help me?
Hey,
Vault-Tec is here for you. Just
who's
follow
my
your
little guy? I'm not going far. I'll just be over there.
There he is. See? Daddy's not going far.
All set? Just
With that, Nate says his final goodbyes to his wife,
the pod will be contaminated
unbeknownstly.
and pressurize you before we head deeper in the vault. Just relax.
Time for a whole new life.
And he has no idea
Secure.
how meaningful that one statement is.
Normal. Procedure complete. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
And the world goes dark. Or bright, rather.
Manual override initiated. Cryogenic stasis suspended.
And with that, the remains of the pre-war society is gone.
Cryogenic array. All residents must vacate immediately.
210 years after the bombs came down, the sole survivor steps out of his cryopod. We are now a man out of time. All around us are other cryopods with dead dwellers inside.
Anyone?
210 years has not been kind to the vault. There are puddles of water everywhere. Approaching a terminal on the wall, we can read about the cryogenic array. Cryogenic array. Offline. Premature termination, resulting in system failure. Isolated manual and remote overrides detected. Controls disabled. Whoever those mysterious figures were, they had the receipts on how to get in here and how to disable that specific pod. Though the question is, why are the other people dead? What killed them? The next entry in this terminal goes over life support, which is also offline. Premature termination resulting in system failure, isolated manual, and remote overrides detected. Controls are disabled. So it more likely killed the dwellers of this vault. Wasn't the invaders, but suffocation due to lack of life support systems. A slow and horrible death for an untold amount of people. The next entry is a list of citizens who lived in this room. However, most of them are the same thing, resulting in the text reading, "The dweller is dead." Cause of death, asphyxiation due to lack of life control, or life support. The only two pods that are different, or only three pods rather, C1 because it's empty, C6 and C7 because those are the two pods that opened up. Everything else and everyone else is dead. Turning around from the terminal, we can head to the back of the room. Water has destroyed machinery in the back of the area, and puddles are pooling around the room. Heading up a staircase, we can open a sliding vault door, heading to a main hallway of the vault. To the left, we open up another sliding door leading into another section of cryopods. There are at least close to 10 more pods in this room. On a desk, we find a new Vault 111 jumpsuit, although it might not do that much good. Stacked on the wall are Vault Tech boxes and crates, but just like the dwellers of the other room, all the dwellers of this vault are dead. The terminal here says the exact same thing as the other one, so we're going to skip over it. Leaving that cryo room, we approach the door to the exit zone. On a table is a screwdriver and a wrench, although the exit zone door isn't accessible. It seems that whatever event happened here that caused this vault to be abandoned, security or maintenance was working on reconstructing and fixing up this door, but the extinction event happened to prevent them from completing their task. On a crate there is a police baton, but taking a right, we find a little security checkpoint with a stim pack beside it. There's a flip lighter in a desk and some old pre-war money in another. Accessing this terminal, this is a security terminal. The first entry of this terminal is for Vault 111 security, and gives a brief overview of the experiments of the vault. Vault 111 is designed to test the long-term effects of suspended animation on unaware human subjects. Security staff are responsible for maintaining installation integrity and monitoring science staff activity. Under no circumstances are staff allowed to deviate from assigned duties. Insubordination or interference with vault operations are capital offenses. security staff are authorized to use lethal force. So there we have it. Similar to Vault 112, Vault 111 had mechanisms capable of sustaining human life for 200 years. However, instead of being taken to a virtual reality, simulating a functional community, Vault 111 was a cryo vault, testing suspended animation for 210 years. And it says here that if, let's say, a security guard wanted to thaw out one of the dwellers, deviation from the experiment was considered a capital offense and as such could be punished by execution. And if other guards caught this person breaking out a dweller, lethal force was authorized. This shows how far Vault-Tec was willing to go to protect the integrity of their experiments. The next terminal entry talks about admission. Upon activation notice from Vault-Tec, all personnel are required to report to the entry area and assist with the minutes of Vault residents. Security personnel will maintain order and ensure that no personnel or residents attempt to evacuate the Vault. Wait, hold up. Why would they want to leave the Vault the second they walk in here? Research staff will be responsible for resident intake and escort each designated cryogenic pod. Residents not accounted for in the manifest should be asked to step aside and detained forcibly by security if necessary. So if any of those individuals at the gate had broken their way in, they would be detained by security, and since this is a deviation from the experiment, would be more than likely disposed of. Once all residents have been sealed into their preservation chambers, dispose of any detainees. There we go. Vault entryway must remain sealed under any circumstances. So, the vault was to be sealed entirely for an indeterminate amount of time. But, obviously, something happened. The security guards are dead, there's no science staff left, at least from what we can see. Perhaps there'll be a bastion of survivors on another edge of the vault. We don't know. Another category of this terminal goes into the individual details of what each role in the vault must fill. Members of the research team must daily monitor the vital signs of cryogenically preserved residents. Cardiopulmonary and cognitive activity in particular must be recorded hourly. Life-saving intervention is only permitted if greater than 80% of the resident population has perished while in cryogenic suspension, and must not interrupt suspension. Independent research is encouraged and left to overseer discretion. So, once again, Vault-Tec shows it has no decency and no respect for human life. The medical staff is only permitted to rescue Vault dwellers if 80% of the Vault's population is dead. And even then, they aren't allowed to wake the dweller up. They can only do brief treatments to ensure that this dweller doesn't die, but that's the extent of their interaction. These dwellers are frozen forever and being monitored daily by a bunch of lab coats. The next entry talks about the security's roles in the vault. Security patrols are to be carried out in a constant 8-hour rotation. Security priorities include monitoring for signs of intrusion, checking for atmosphere links, settling disputes among personnel, enforcement of regulations set forth by the overseer, enforcements of regulations set forth by Vault-Tec. So, as previously mentioned, they have lethal force engaged. They see something going wrong, they can start shooting. They're supposed to value Vault-Tec's rules as government. So they're also supposed to be the peacekeepers. So if any science staff are arguing amongst themselves, they are to settle it by any means necessary. They are also to check for radiation leaks. That if the vault ever is breached somehow by an invader let's say somebody on the surface survived and is trying to enter the vault, goes up to the security checkpoints, presses a button, and uses the elevator to lower themselves into the vault, that individual would be dealt with. Or in the unforeseen circumstance of wildlife burrowing its way into the vault, security would also have to be on the lookout for threats such as those. All in all, standard security, nothing too out of the ordinary. And the final little entry talks about janitorial duties and how maintenance staff should act. Due to the nature of Vault 111, personnel will be expected to perform duties outside of their normal qualifications, such as janitorial duties and food preparation. The exact distribution of these roles is left to overseer discretion. So there were no assigned roles in this vault except for security, staff, overseer, and dweller. Now, it seems as if random staff, whether it be security or even on the science team, would be picked at random to fill in the gaps of roles that the vault would need, such as chefs or janitors, or maintenance. As we saw earlier, the door leading to the main exit of the vault is broken, and a little step stool had been set up beside the door with a toolbox with some tools, clearly hinting that somebody was attempting to fix the door and that door had been busted since, well, after the bombs dropped and after we were frozen. So it seems that somebody was picked for this duty. Backing out real quick, we can retrace our steps to head to another entry talking about the Vault 111 all clear signal. Following a nuclear event, Vault Tech will monitor hazards such as radiation levels, enemy invasion, subsequent attacks, and other factors. Once conditions are deemed safe, this terminal will receive an all-clear notice. Upon receiving the all-clear notice, Vault Tech personnel may be evacuated at overseer discretion. Disregard any notices from organizations or individuals not associated with Vault Tech, including government and military. Residents are not to be disrupted or evacuated. Vault Tech will attend to their needs remotely once Vault 111 staff have been evacuated. So again, Vault Tech doesn't care about the citizens inhabiting the vault. They only care about their research, the experiment, and possibly their workers. As previously stated, Vault Tech deems itself in this situation as the government, so only orders from Vault Tech are to be regarded, and everything else is to be cast aside. So even if the President of the United States directly sent the all-clear signal or sent anything to Vault 111, they will not be obligated and should not respond to it, even if it is from a figure such as the President of the U.S., or military, or any company that is not Vault Tech. So in this case, Vault Tech has elevated itself to the stance of government, and may even be playing God. The next entry goes over the mandatory lockdown period. Vault 111 is classified as a short-term assignment. Non-resident personnel are expected to carry out research duties and basic maintenance of the vault while awaiting the all-clear signal to evacuate. In the absence of an all-clear message from Vault Tech, the overseer may elect to evacuate staff after a mandatory shelter period of 180 days of containment. Under no circumstance may Vault 111 staff evacuate during this shelter period, unless receiving the all-clear message from Vault Tech. So there were two ways that Vault 111 could be evacuated. The easiest and most clear being the all-clear signal sent by Vault Tech themselves. The other being after a mandatory shelter period of 180 days, the overseer may decide that the shelter period has gone on long enough, they still haven't received the all-clear notice, but it would be a good idea to go ahead and depart the vault. So at that point, the overseer could authorize an evacuation. Although, just as before, the dwellers are supposed to remain in the cryopods, and supposedly, Vault Tech would monitor them. Somehow. The next section of the terminal goes over this individual security guard's thoughts. Whoops, I got excited there and unintentionally skipped a couple of entries. So let's start here. Labeled October 23rd, 2077. God. It finally happened. The world's over. Barely got all the residents inside. Not everyone made it. Now it's just us and the icebergs. I don't get it. Eggheads try to explain to me that keeping them frozen is a big experiment. For a better future or something. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right that we're smiling at them all the time before putting them on ice. Shouldn't we have told them something? So while Vault Tech might be cold and heartless, the staff aren't. They feel bad about cryogenically freezing these dwellers without them understanding it. Of course, the dwellers were just panicking because they just witnessed a nuke. So they were willing to believe the whole decontamination pod BS that was being imposed on them. But as we see here, Vault Tech Security was having regrets, was showing remorse, that they just smiled and waved at them and acted friendly towards these dwellers, and then iced them. Shows the humanity behind a company. The next entry is December 25th, 2077. Christmas underground. Got together with the rest of security boys and support staff and had a little party. Best gift that got handed out was a fancy-led snack cake that wasn't too stale. None of the scientists came. Overseer wasn't there either. I just don't get them. They hide something from us? Another company secret only for the higher-ups? Whatever. Just a few more months until the all-clear signal is supposed to come through. Then we can start rebuilding. So, the whole gift exchange displays that the vault was suffering from malnourishment. It was running out of food. And the food that they did have was expiring and expiring fast. Honestly, Vault Tech should have prepared ahead for this. Having several months underground, they should have purchased food that would not expire in that time frame. Or at least if it did, it would be towards the end of the mandatory shelter period. But it seemed that Vault Tech once again wasn't prepared for something like long-term inhabitation of the vault, so they didn't plan accordingly. The security guard seems somewhat optimistic about heading to the surface, if not skeptical about the Overseer's motives. Curious to see how this turns out. But before we move on, I also like to mention how it's interesting how there seems to be a bit of a social class division between security and scientists. Whereas since the Overseer and scientists were a no-show to the party, the security group became skeptical of them. This could lead to potential violence, or at least conflict in the vault. March 14th, 2078. Only a few weeks left in our mandatory shelter period. Everyone's getting stir-crazy. Some people even saying the all-clear signal is never coming. We can't stay here much longer, that's for sure. It's not the fact that I've been staring at the same break room and bunk bed for over 6 months. It's the fact that we only have enough food left for another few months. Tops. The Overseer keeps telling everyone to be patient and focus on work. He's definitely keeping us out of the loop. Something bad is going on. I just know it. My previous hypothesis is being confirmed. Suspicion and skepticism is growing in the vault. Between the scientists, the Overseer, and the security staff. People who don't believe that they're going to be free. They don't believe that an all-clear signal is coming at all. And at this point, Vault Tech only stocked the vault with enough food to last for a brief amount of time. The clock is ticking before somebody either has to violently overtake the vault or starve to death. April 23rd, 2878. The main door accessing the vault exit is malfunctioning. Now the only way out is through the Overseer's evacuation tunnel. How convenient for him. He has one of the science team watching the door into his office at all times from a little makeshift checkpoint. Got invited to a meeting tonight. Support staffers and security only. Sounds like I'm not the only one with an axe to grind. English, please. So conflicts are finally coming to a head. The overseer seems to have purposely sabotaged one of the only ways out of the vault, and moved the only way out of the vault to his office. He set up a brief security checkpoint using one of the science staff, and now the security staff seems to be organizing a riot. Last entry. No date given. No all clear from Vault Tech is coming. We need to leave. We're all but out of food. I almost murdered Stanley for dropping a darn salt cracker on the floor. A handful of us confronted the overseer about opening up the vault. I never knew a man that could shout that loud. Now he's locked himself in his office along with the rest of science staff. We're supposed to hand over any food, weapons, and medicine we have by tonight, or there's going to be consequences. I've talked to everyone. It's time. One way or another, we're getting out of this vault. So tensions have reached a breaking point. A riot has formed. The science staff and overseer have locked themselves away, and an impending harbinger of doom is marching towards them. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. Leaving the terminal room, we can head down the hallway, which spirals to a left. Opening a sliding door, we are in another hallway, leading to our break room with a rad roach on the ground. Crushing it and sheathing our baton,
Roaches? What the hell?
we approach a diner. Several picnic tables are scattered around, and kitchen countertops have been covered with dust. But it provided food to the security staff. On a desk is a recreation terminal. Accessing it, found a couple entries. Remember, use of the recreational terminal is a privilege. If work performance declines, this privilege may be revoked. Enjoy responsibly. Oh, geez, Overseer. You gonna ban these people from playing video games underground just so they slack off a little bit? That's harsh, man. The next entry is a list of high scores. Cool. At this point, we can eject the tape, which is the Red Menace holotape game. So backing up, we can explore the kitchen even farther. There's a bathroom with a single sink, toilet, and shower. The sink still functions, although the toilet and the shower rusted shut or busted. Heading into this next room, there is a bunk room, a barracks, if you will, for security staff and potentially science crew too. Although it seems as if this has been either pillaged or a scene of a war zone. There are beds to overturn, mattresses on the floor, shelves knocked over on their side, and all the locker doors are busted open. Something violent happened in there. But at this point, it's time to turn around and close the door here if you want to, and open up the next door, leading to a Vault Tech reactor room, which instantly fries a rad roach. You must proceed with caution as not to get electrocuted to death. We see more rad roaches, so pulling out our police baton, we crush another two. Sheathing it, and taking the rad roach meat, we see a skeleton wearing a Vault 111 jumpsuit. What happened to him? Poor guy. But this is strange. He's not wearing any kind of science staff outfit, nor is he wearing security. What's going on here? Two more rad roaches jump at us through the small hallway. We can take the meat off their corpses and progress farther. We can also use a water fountain on the wall here to regenerate any health we lost. Opening this door, we have finally reached the Overseer's office. And it is a mess. Shelves and chairs are overturned. He has stim packs on the desk along with a pistol used for self-defense. You can see the corpse of the Overseer on the ground with a bullet hole beside the skeleton. More bullet holes line the walls and the floors. As we read earlier, this was a sign of a war zone between Overseer and science staff and security. His desk has a terminal on it. And turning to our left, we see an armory with 10mm rounds on the ground, a bobby pin, and a cabinet.
Nice.
And this sucker in a case. Before we check out the terminal, let's check out his living quarters. He has 3 dressers, preserved cigarette packs, an expansive bedroom, private bedroom as well, a locker that's still closed with some ammunition in it, and a much larger bathroom with its own sliding door. He's living the life of luxury in here. Like the previous bathroom, the sink still works, the toilet's not in nearly as bad shape, but the dressers are empty. It's time to check out his terminal. We already know what happened to him, however. His corpse is on the ground right here. Trying to investigate to see if that thing on his jacket is another bullet hole, but I think it's just a strange textured button. Alright, Overseer's terminal. Confidential, confidential, confidential. Overseer's eyes only. Violation VTP 01011. Vault 111 is designed to test long-term effects of suspended animation on the unaware human subjects. Your staff will be on short-term assignment to monitor basic cardiopulmonary and cognitive functions. Long-term monitoring will be handled remotely by Vault Tech technicians. Under no circumstances is suspension to be disrupted. This includes the administration of life-saving measures. Your staff is also considered expendable. Insubordination or attempts to evacuate prematurely are capital violations. Unused cryogenic pods are the preferred method for cadaver disposal. Harsh, Vault Tech. So if any staff members happen to die, just chuck them in an unused cryopod. Who knows how many of the dwellers were actually dwellers? Perhaps some were insubordinate Vault Tech staff. Man, Vault Tech... Seriously, I keep trying to have hope for you that perhaps you'll get better, but by each turn you keep getting worse. The next entry is written by the Overseer himself. I've long dreamed of making cryogenic freezing available in a portable, on-demand form. The cryolator is my latest attempt. Thankfully, we're in no short supply of the chemicals and components I need to tinker with the prototype. It's a nice way to occupy the time as we wait for the all-clear signal. We saw the cryolator completed and locked away in a case in the Vault 111 Overseer's armory. So, we'll have to come back at some later date with a master lockpicking skill in order to obtain that weapon. But it is clear that the Overseer was mechanically gifted. He knew his way around a machine, and he can create essentially an inverse flamethrower. An ice thrower, if you will. Good job, Overseer. There was another tab with some more entries, but it was the same thing that was on the security terminal. So moving on to the personal entries of the Overseer. The final staff orientation is complete. All but a few of the residents down in Sanctuary Hills have been enrolled, and several from Concord as well. Vault Tech supervisors came up this week to do a technical review with me. This vault is ready to open. I can only imagine what wonders our residents will get to witness. The notion of leaping forward in time. I almost wish I could join them and see the promise of our future realized. What future? Nothing good happened. Everyone's dead. You yourself included, Overseer. But Vault Tech was doing some final tests before the vault opened on October 23rd. And it seems as if most residents had already signed up. It seems like Nate and Nora were the last couple residents to obtain the status of Vault 111 dwellers. The next entry is on October 23rd, 2077. It's happened. We were lucky that most of the staff was nearby when the early warning came through. We had less notice than expected, but only Nordhagen was missing when we sealed the entrance. Resident minutes went smoothly. Everyone made it, even the family that waited until the last minute. That was us. I was worried there would be more suspicion, but things happened so fast for these people. It must have been too overwhelmed to question the cryogenic pods. Once again, Vault Tech deceived the general populace. The next entry is titled Malfunctions. Strange issue today with Pod C3. Subject appeared to be having heart palpitations. Nothing life-threatening, but unusual. We realized almost too late that the pod was malfunctioning. The cryogenic array almost started thawing her out. We're not sure, but I expect that a hiccup in Vault Tech's remote override systems may have sent an errant signal. We'll have to keep an eye out. I only hope their systems are reliable once we evacuate the staff. So Vault Tech's codes were kind of faulty. And speaking of which, who had them? How did they remotely open cryopods or even monitor them? They're all dead. Next entry. There's been no all-clear signal yet. Even though we're nearing the end of 180-day mandatory shelter period, supplies were never intended to last much more than that. And despite my best efforts, people are beginning to question what we're doing down here. If people think they can just leave when the 180 days are up, they are insane. The radioactive exposure would still be potent enough to fry everyone if the vault seals are all breached that early. The whole point of the all-clear was to receive additional instructions from the main office. I don't know what to do. I can't open the vault. I can't expect our supplies to last forever. I just have to keep everything under control until the all-clear. So the Overseer himself as well was reaching a breaking point. The suspension period was almost up. They could leave. But he was still afraid that since the all-clear signal had not arrived yet, that the radiation levels on the surface were still potent enough to kill. He didn't want to risk killing every single person in the vault by opening the door too early. He was being smart. But also, he wasn't taking into consideration the thoughts of the security staff. They had been told that if an all-clear signal did not come after 180 days, that they should be permitted to leave. And now that that time was fast approaching, and the Overseer seemed adamant that that was not happening, tensions began to rise. And eventually the Overseer noticed at the point where he purposely busted up a door, preventing people from even accessing the vault's main exit, and putting the only way to leave the vault in his office, through his Overseer tunnel. Kind of a stupid move there, because now you're going to have a siege on your hands if a riot forms. And as the bullet holes in the wall and the corpse on the floor prove, a riot did happen. Final entry, titled Mutiny. A faction led by the security personnel have turned on me, demanding that they be allowed to leave the vault. Idiots. I will not open the door to be irradiated to death out there. I'm consolidating the remaining supplies, putting the staff on lockdown. We're going to have to start prioritizing who deserves what little food we have left. I've been too dang generous with the rations. If people don't like it, well, that's fewer mouths to feed. So instead of listening to the cry of demands that the populace was spewing at him, the Overseer decided that a lockdown was great, rationing food and keeping the food away from the dwellers was great, or rather security staff, and that hoarding weapons in one room would be a great idea. Totally didn't see a full-fledged riot coming his direction and putting a few bullets to his skull. Smart guy. Exiting the entries, we can open the Overseer's evacuation terminal and open the evacuation tunnel. Not terminal. I'm sorry, I can't speak English right now. I'm a bit cryo-sick, if you will. So heading around his desk, we can take some money and a bobby pin and head down another hallway. Rad roaches, however, lined the wall. So using our newly acquired 10mm pistol, we can begin putting an end to the irradiated filth. 2 more jump from the walls, and another one rounds a corner at us. You put an entire magazine into that group, but at least they're dead. Holstering our pistol, and head on to this main door here. Opening it, reach another wall. Another hallway, rather. Turning around, we see the exit zone door. It slides open, and here we are, back where we all started. Putting a few more bullets into a rad roach, reloading the pistol, we can head into the evacuation zone. Another door opens, leading back. The malfunctioning door opened. But in here, the ride extended. There are more bullet holes in the wall of this main room. A table has been overturned, being used as a barricade, and another Vault 111 new jumpsuit is laying on the ground. Another rad roach crawls from underneath a platform. You can deal with it. Reloading the pistol and holstering it, we see the same Vault Tech doctor that walked us in. You too. But we can get a nice view of the Vault 111 Welcome Home sign and the backside of the door. Reaching on the ground, we see a dismembered arm. The skeleton's arm falls to the floor as we put on the formerly doctor's Pip-Boy. Latching it onto the arm and wiping off 210 years worth of dust from it, we now have a Pip-Boy. We're almost ready to leave the vault, but I wanted to take one final look around. See the decontamination scanner here.
Am I the only one left?
Another science personnel staff on the ground, and exhaust being filtered out. But this was clearly a riot. Tables have been overturned. Bullet holes are in the wall. But no matter. It's time to leave Vault 111. Using our Pip-Boy, we can access the main control panel for Vault 111, and the vault gets to work. We are now free to exit Vault 111. Walking towards a light and walking through the gear-shaped door. The elevator gear screeches its way down, and the hatch leading us into it opens up. It's time to return to the surface. You get a better view at this cryogenic generator here as well, but it's time to leave. Finished. Exit the vault.
Enjoy your return to the surface, and thank you for choosing Vault Tech.
So here we are, on the surface. But this concludes the story of Vault 111. So what did you think? Firstly, for me, this experiment confuses me. Not only is it stupid of the Overseer to not allow his workers to leave after the 180-day period, but also it's stupid on Vault-Tech's part. How are they going to monitor this? Well, it's clear that they somehow had remote control over these pods, as somebody opened our cryopod without the Vault's computer doing it itself. But who would have such codes? Who would have the authority to do this? Well, I'll go into my thoughts on that in a second. The experiment itself was interesting. Cryogenic freezing, forcing people to remain in suspension for hundreds of years. It's a concept explored by many sci-fi shows, but in movies, of course. But I feel like it fit well here in Fallout as well. It's not entirely horrible, but it's not great either. Heading around the platform, I mean, we see how horrible the Great War was just in the first few seconds of being up here. But back to what I was saying. Who would have the authority? Vault-Tec or the Enclave? As we'll see in Vaults 13 and 8, the Enclave, and in 101, the Enclave had access to Vault-Tec codes. So, while the Enclave is not necessarily responsible for Vault 111 here, it is possible that the Enclave may have had records of it, since Vault-Tec was part of the Enclave. But what's the purpose here? Why would they do this? Have people in suspension here for 210 years and just be suspended? What purpose would this serve? Since the entire nation's dead, what's the purpose behind it? Well, I have a theory. And my theory is that Vault-Tec wasn't predicting a nationwide war. Sure, they made vaults all around the continental United States. But they weren't exactly prepared for the sheer scale that the Great War had. Perhaps they weren't expecting it to be everywhere. Perhaps they were expecting just a couple states to get nuked. And then they can do experiments on those vaults in that area. Like suppose that just like West Virginia and Boston got nuked, or Massachusetts got nuked. Then Vault 75, 81, 88, 111, 114, and 95 would go into effect. And then in West Virginia we have 63, 94, 96, 76, and 51 going into effect. But I feel like we're thinking that this war, the nuclear war, wouldn't take out the entire nation. That it would just be a handful of states getting nuked, and then they can continue to monitor the stasis and status of the vault from their headquarters. Now we also know from some uncanon sources that Vault-Tec had a vault in Texas, their own personal vault, Vault Zero, which was used for high-ranking Vault-Tec officials and their families, but also served as a way to monitor experiments of the other vaults. So if this is in fact canon, then perhaps Vault-Tec could have been monitoring Vault 111 from Vault Zero, but again, since it's not really confirmed canon, we don't know. But I genuinely don't think Vault-Tec was preparing for the sheer scale of the Great War, meaning that all of the vaults went into effect at once. So they're really, except for perhaps those at Vault Zero or the Enclave, or the other party, the Institute, to monitor these vaults. That'd be the only one left. So Vault-Tec is gone. The experiment was a waste. I guess technically they all were. But this one experiment in particular was more than likely a failure. Would have been technically concluded as a failure. Especially since those researching it, those who weren't the Enclave or Vault Tech, the Vault 111 staff, they all died. So, what purpose is that going to serve anybody? The research is lost. The point is lost. But, that's just my thoughts. I personally don't think Vault Tech was prepared for this. I personally feel like this experiment was pretty good. It's interesting, but it's also not practical. However, what do you guys think? Was this interesting? Was this exciting? Let me know in the comments below. But before we conclude, happy Fallout Day, everybody. Wanted to get this one out on October 23rd to celebrate Fallout Day, the day the world ended. I hope you enjoyed, everybody, and as always, your Vault Tech historian is signing off.